Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So I'm a little bit early. I'm a little bit early. That's unusual for me, isn't it? Anyway, I was ready, so I thought, I'll just come on and rather than just sit and wait. So yeah, so, what we're going to talk about in this video? Well, we're going to talk about Nancy Guthrie. So, yesterday I didn't do a video about Nancy because there wasn't really much to say, but there's a few things to talk about today. Unfortunately, we're now nearly 50 days since Nancy Guthrie disappeared off the face of the earth to all intents and purposes. And we don't have an arrest yet. That is something that we don't have, unless something's happened literally within the last 10 minutes. We definitely don't have an arrest. And it's quite strange, isn't it? Because you can't believe it. That's how I feel. It's like, how can nobody have been arrested yet? How can we how can we not know who's done this when we've got CCTV footage? You know, an 84-year-old woman just sleeping in her own house, stolen from the house, but nothing else stolen, so no real evidence of the fact it was a burglary, even though Sheriff Nanos is saying, oh yeah, we think this is a burglary. Oh no, he's not saying that. He's saying we think we have a motive. We think we have a motive, but he hasn't shared that motive with us. I mean, he's made a total cojones of everything, really, hasn't he? Since the very beginning of this case. So we're going to talk about him a little bit as well. And there's been a process set in motion to recall Sheriff Nanos. In other words, remove him from his post. And there's a petition online to remove him. So this is how he's affected everybody, not just me moaning about him or not just us moaning about him. The community, he's done nothing to help the community, has he? He hasn't, been there like reassuring people or at least trying to let people know that something's being done. He's been very conflicting in everything he's said. He's contradicted himself. He's talked about his beliefs, not about his evidence. He's not done a proper press conference since the first week of this tragedy. He's just doing individual interviews and he says different things in every interview. Oh, so he's just been rubbish, hasn't he? He's been rubbish. He's been out of his depth. This case was too much for him, but instead of taking the help from the FBI, because he doesn't like the FBI, because the FBI have investigated him in the past, for financial irregularities, which no action was taken. So presumably he was found there was nothing to be found. But the thing is, he's got a grudge. He's a man who holds grudges. He's a man with a chip on his shoulder. This is what everyone says about him. And lots of people have come out and spoken against Sheriff Nanos. And actually, nobody has come out and spoken in favour of him, or not that I've seen. I haven't seen any of his sheriff deputies come out and say, oh no, he's fantastic. So now this process has been set in motion to remove him. Best thing that could happen to that county, I think. Get rid of this sheriff. He is absolute rubbish. And if I live there, and thank God I don't live there, because the more I see about Peamar County and that area where Nancy lived, how many videos have we got of masked men and black gloved men wandering around, approaching people's doors and being caught on their cameras? My God, what an unsafe neighbourhood. I tell you what, if I did live there, I'd be moving out, that's for sure. Oh my God, do you think that would, if you think of your neighbourhood, Do you think in your neighbourhood at night, if you went round all the CCTV of all your neighbours, if they've got cameras, you would find all these strange men with rucksacks wandering around all the, on different nights? It's like, they've got this policy, haven't they, of no lights. It's like a light pollution rule, so you can't have lights on at night. Forget that. Sorry. It's not making a safe environment for these people who live there. If I was one of Nancy Guthrie's neighbours, I'd be very, very worried. And as I say, I think I'd be looking to move somewhere else. And yet they all wanted the media to go. And as soon as the media went, they're back to this, solitary place again. They got their neighbourhood back. And these people are going to be all wandering around again, trying to steal things or do whatever they're trying to do, because we don't know what the people that broke into Nancy's or the person. We don't know if it's a person. We don't know if it's a group of people. We know nothing. I know nothing. But, now they can go back and do it all again with impunity, because sheriff deputies' jeep has gone. The media have all gone. Nobody's, keeping an eye around and videoing or whatever. And as much as I can understand why the neighbours might not have liked it, especially in the beginning when there were so many people there, God, they're back vulnerable again, in my opinion. Anyway, before we get into talking about it properly, just want to say my thank you. So thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for caring about Nancy or any of the cases that we talk about. Thank you so much. Yes, special thank you to my members as ever. Special thank you to those of you who've sent me Ko-fis, sent super stickers, PayPal me, etc. Those kind of support. Thank you so much. Thank you for the emails. Thank you for the nice messages. I appreciate every positive input you put into my channel, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It means an awful lot to me. Thank you. Okay, so I think there's only Marg who's listening while she's driving this morning in the chat. So if you come into the chat, say hello, and I'll say hello back to you. But I'm going to get going now to talk about Nancy, poor Nancy. Is that I can't remember. It's been quite a while since a case has sort of gripped me as much as this one. Thinking about Nancy so much, because so last night, as I was getting ready to go to bed, I was thinking about Nancy, and I was thinking of her on that night. So apparently on the Saturday, she'd been to Annie and Tommaso's house for something to eat and a games night, isn't it? Now, we haven't seen, apparently she went there in an Uber, and Nancy Grace yesterday was calling for the Uber footage to be released. We haven't seen anything, that shows Nancy going off to dinner, coming back from dinner. Why are they not releasing that? Because that, anyway, this is what Nancy Grace was saying. Why don't they release the footage of Nancy in the Uber at least? Anyway, off she went. So for some reason she went in an Uber. It is a little bit strange because it's not very far where Annie and Tommaso live. And then Tommaso brought her home. Don't know why Tommaso didn't pick her up. But anyway, or why Nancy didn't drive herself, because she was perfectly capable of driving. Now, maybe she wanted to have a drink. I don't know if Nancy liked a glass of wine or whatever. Maybe that's why she took an Uber there. Anyway, not sure why she didn't take an Uber back. You'd think that Tommaso would have had a drink while they were having a games night, if he was going to have a drink at all. So that, I think, straight away is part of the people think, oh, why did she take an Uber? Or because we want things to make sense, don't we? Now we also have to remember that Tommaso has been cleared by Sheriff Nanos. Not that that's much of a, the problem with Sheriff Nanos clearing the family and the spouses is nobody believes a word he says. So that's why we could do with a different person on the case that people will have faith in and believe it when they say something. Because poor Tommaso is still having shade cast in his direction. I think just because nobody believes Sheriff Nanos, really. Anyway, it turns out, allegedly, all the family took polygraph tests. So that's something I wanted to talk about on here. They all took a polygraph and they all passed with flying colours, whatever that means. Now, there was a very interesting video that Nancy released yesterday. And she had a guy on there who is a polygrapher, and he was talking about polygraphs and, what they can tell you, what they can't tell you. It's very interesting. We'll talk about that in a minute. So anyway, last night, so as I was getting ready for bed, I was thinking about Nancy, and I was thinking, now when she got back from having dinner and the games night or the games evening or whatever they were doing, had she had a drink? Because what it's like if you go out and you have a good time, and I'm presuming they had a lovely time, and you've had a bit of, you've had a nice meal, and then you've had a few drinks. You get home and you just want to go straight to bed, don't you? And maybe you've got a nighttime routine, take your makeup off, brush your teeth, whatever people do in the evening time before they go to bed. Everyone has their nighttime routine, don't they? But sometimes when you've been out and you've enjoyed yourself, you can't be bothered doing all that. And did she just go straight to bed? And did she change into any night clothes like pajamas? Or I always imagine Nancy in a nightie. I don't know. I think it's because my mum always used to wear a nightie, and Nancy's not unlike. She's a similar age group to what my mum would be if she was still alive. So I just, that's how I imagine her. But she might not. She might wear a pair of silk pajamas in bed for all I know. It's just funny how you get visions of people. But did she even bother changing? Because if she was wearing, sometimes when you just go round to your family's house, she might just wear, I don't know, a lounge sort of outfit sort of thing. And, I would imagine it was quite cold, because at the end of the day in Tucson, even though it's quite hot in the daytime, those deserty places are normally quite chilly in the evening, aren't they? The temperature drops. Anyway, I would imagine it wasn't hot. So did she just get into bed as she was? We don't know. We don't know what Nancy was wearing so and Annie's. We don't know whether she did get changed. They've not released anything that tells us what clothes we're looking for. I mean, maybe they don't even know. So, though I still think, how can they not have any CCTV of Nancy leaving that house? But of course, that was when the camera was removed, wasn't it? So anyway, that's something else. They may well have some footage that they just haven't released. Hi, Julie. Good morning. Buenos dias. So yeah. So I was thinking about it last night, and I thought, that poor woman. So she would have been getting ready, going to bed, like we do every night, just in the Groundhog Day type scenario that we live every day, our routines. And then what happened? What happened? Was she asleep? Both Savannah and Nanos have said she was taken from her bed. That's been specifically said. So was she asleep in her bed? Literally woken up by this face peering at her through a ski mask? How terrifying. Yeah, so I was thinking about her a lot last night, and I thought how awful, to just be there in your home and go to bed as normal, and then what happened to her? Just terrible, isn't it? Think about whoever did this to Nancy. They are horrible, horrible people, you know. If you're watching, you never know, they might be watching, because I'm sure they watch around different YouTubers and things. They may catch one of my videos, even though I know I'm only a small YouTube channel, but you just don't know. If you are watching, you're a horrible person. You know, let Nancy go, or let her family know where she is. Just, you know, if you don't care about anybody else, you don't care about Nancy, you don't care about your family, don't care about Nancy's family, think about your own soul. Try and save your own soul, because you're going to hell one day. You will, you know, you won't be on this planet forever. You think you might, you know, even if you're never caught, you know, one day you'll be meeting your maker, then you'll get your punishment. So maybe you should think about that. Think what karma you're inviting for a start, and then think about what's going to happen to you in the next world. With the, you know, this is just horrible what you've done. So you're setting yourself up for eternal punishment, which, to be honest, is worse than punishment on this planet. So yeah, do the right thing, you twonk. Anyway, so yeah, so I was thinking about it, and I thought, poor woman. Anyway, whatever she went through that night, hopefully she's okay now, one way or another. So yeah, going back to that neighborhood, how many people, how many masked men wander around that neighborhood at night? So I've got another video to show you of, probably not connected to Nancy's case, but again, somebody wandering around the neighborhood in the middle of the night, you know, gloves and full rucksack. Again, I'm still intrigued. What was in that rucksack? That rucksack that's absolutely packed full of something. Who takes a rucksack full of stuff to do a burglary? But anyway, then it did occur to me. I thought maybe they'd burgled somewhere else and they'd already taken stuff from somewhere else. But that's not been reported, has it? Nobody's said, oh yeah, there was another burglar in the area, like if they'd been to one house first. But what were they planning to take the stuff away from Nancy's in, if they already had carrying a full rucksack? You know, were they planning on taking a bag from Nancy's if they were there to burgle, which I don't believe they were. I think they went there to get Nancy. And sadly, I'm leaning more towards the fact that they went there to kill Nancy for whatever reason. And I think those ransom notes from the early days, they're bogus. I don't think they're ransom notes. Maybe that was their intention in the beginning, to ransom her. And maybe something went wrong. Somebody on one podcast I was watching yesterday was saying maybe they took Nancy out to take her to, you know, a cash point, like with her card, and to try and get some money out, and then something happened in the process. The thing is, that blood from the porchway that we've seen, that wasn't there when you saw the guy, the CCTV that we can see. There's no blood there. So what happened inside that house that then by the time they brought her out, there was blood there? You know, I feel Nancy, sadly, I do feel that she was probably deceased as they left that house. Why, I just don't know whether it's a grudge against Nancy, a grudge against Savannah, a grudge against Tommaso or Annie. It could be any reason, or it could just be, some like someone like BTK or the Night Stalker. But if you think about them, because sometimes people have mentioned that, is it some sort of serial killer or sex offender? They never took their victims away from the properties where they killed them. Like the Night Stalker would break in, rob a place. He would, sex offend the person if it was a woman. But and he would linger sometimes in the house. He would even eat in the house. Quite often. It's quite surprising how often offenders do that. Go to the fridge. Murdering someone seems to make people hungry. Quite often they go to McDonald's or somewhere. How many crime videos I've seen where afterwards they've gone to McDonald's. You think, God, oh, you worked up an appetite killing that old lady, did you? But it does happen. But they don't take the body with them. That's so rare, for someone to actually take someone with them. That is normally, if it is somebody who knows them, that will remove the person. Very unusual. It's a real mysterious case. This. I hope it's solved soon because I tell you, not only have I lived in that area, it's made me very anxious, and I'm sure a lot of you have been made anxious by it. Just the thought of somebody, coming into your house in the middle of the night and taking you away and doing God knows what to you while you're lying in your bed. Thank you, Julie. Julie signed the petition. I've signed the petition as well. In fact, I think I'll pin the petition. Oh, I can't. Hang on, I can't change. Let's see if I can pin it. I can't see to replace pin message. Yeah, there you go. I've changed that now. Yeah, I mean, he needs to be removed. Somebody good, somebody who's going to work properly with the FBI needs to be in charge as far as the sheriff's department's concerned. Anyway, I've signed it, and so the thing is, this petition against Nanos. Let's talk about that now first. Then, um, he. This is a push for a recall of Nanos. And now Sheriff Nanos is a Democrat. That's political persuasion. But this recall for him is bipartisan, as they call it. So it's from the Democrats and the Republicans, it's from everyone, from the community. So apparently, actual sheriff's deputies have wanted to do it, but they were too. Thing is, those deputies that work in his office, they've all said what a vindictive man he is, and if you cause trouble for Sheriff Nanos, you end up getting transferred, don't you? We saw that union guy talking when he was uncooperative with Sheriff Nanos over something. He found himself on a desk job, the sort of desk job that normally detectives who have, sustained an injury, or deputies that have sustained an injury and can't do, like physically can't do the sort of in the field job, get put on desk duties, just to keep them in a job, which is fair enough. But he didn't have that. He hasn't had an injury or anything like that. He was put on one of these kind of jobs that are normally given to people who've had some sort of injury or some reason why they can't do the full deputy's job. He was put on that. He said, I'm dealing with people who ring up saying their hose has been stolen. That's because that's how vindictive Sheriff Nanos is. That's what he said. That's his words. I'm paraphrasing, but it is his words. And lots of people have said the same. He's a vindictive man. He holds grudges. I think that's why he's still got a grudge against the FBI for investigating him all those years ago. He's not forgiven them. That's why he won't work properly with them. He's been accused of withholding evidence from the FBI or manipulating evidence. He's just, and as I keep saying, it can't be one person says something about someone's reputation, even a couple of people, you don't have to believe it, do you? But when everybody is saying bad things about Sheriff Nanos and nobody is coming forward in his defense, you have to think that it's probably true, don't you? You know, you're always going to get somebody who doesn't like you just for political reasons. There'll be Republicans. Maybe you don't like him just because it's not their political persuasion. But that's different from, nobody having a good word to say about you, even your own, people that are your own party or your own political persuasion. Nobody's got a good word to say about you. It's not good, is it? Anyway, so let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at a video. Oh, I'll share this article. I mean, it's good that the community have got the right of recall. Because I'll tell you what, if I lived in that community, I would definitely be calling for this guy's resignation, because it's your safety that's at risk here. So, for this to be successful, they have to get a certain number of signatures. Now, that thing I've shared there is a change.org thing to sign. Now, what I would say to you is don't donate any money, because they always ask you to donate €2 or two. I wouldn't donate any money to it because I'm not sure exactly where that money goes. But let's have a look at this, what we've got here. Oh, the internet's slow. Come on. Just takes so long. Anyway, Southern Arizona residents. Oh, no, that's not it. Right, that's not working, is it? Let's try another one. That's not playing, it's just whirring. News Nation one. News Nation one. My internet's not playing this morning, I'm afraid. Ooh. Little advert. Oh, skip.
Has been calling out the incompetence and failed leadership of Pima County Sheriff Christopher Nanos and the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. And now it seems that the locals have had enough too. Driven by the anger and frustration of Pima County residents, the sheriff is facing a possible recall that could have him ousted from his current office. The man leading the charge is Republican congressional candidate Daniel Gutierrez, and he joins us now. Sir, thank you so much for coming on the show. So the police in Pima County... Yes, of course. Police in Pima County had a unanimous vote of no confidence in Sheriff Nanos last week. And it's also come to light that the sheriff had to resign from the El Paso Police Department after packing up a laundry list of infractions. What do you think the final straw was for those officers?
The final straw was the false resume. That was the one that caused them to take a vote. To me, I've been watching Nanos for a while because I've been traveling the southern border, and as you know, Pima County borders along the border.
Yes,
and
it does.
For 4 years, drugs had poured across that border by drug runners in backpacks. Mr. Chilton, he's a rancher along that border, has filmed it for 4 years, and he's got images of thousands of drug runners coming across the border, the exact path they take, the exact time of day, and he's given it to law enforcement, and there has been one arrest.
So this is about more than, of
So
course,
that-
the Nancy Guthrie case. This is just the straw that broke the camel's back, essentially.
Yeah, and Nancy Guthrie was the final thing, and I've been out to Nancy Guthrie's. It's a shame that crime has risen to this point in our community, and I can't blame just Nanos. We have failed leadership in Pima County.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Who additionally is there who should be held accountable for the crime running rampant, as you say?
There's no law enforcement here. They're not holding anybody accountable. And I've been saying for a long time, I'm not a politician. I'm a painting contractor. I got into this race because I have watched the drugs, the homeless crisis grow. I have watched the crime rise in our community. There's just about every day someone's getting stabbed on the city buses. We have machete attacks. You heard about the hatchet attack from the young man that's from New York that stopped here on the bus, and they killed him with a hatchet. This is happening every day in Tucson.
So let's talk about before we have to run, the task ahead of you. You have 120 days to receive 120,000 signatures, which is 25% of the total votes cast for the sheriff in his 2024 election. Do you think you'll be able to reach that goal for a recall?
Absolutely, and I'm going to try and get them done in the next 60 days. So technically, with the volunteers we have, it's about 300 signatures apiece, which isn't a lot when you're getting Democrats, independents, and Republicans. I had the Mexican station call me today, one of them out here, and asked me to bring them a petition, and they're going to put it out on their show to get involved and help us recall Nanos. So there's a lot of people involved in this.
Well, I should note that if the recall is successful, Nanos has the option to resign or call for a special election. So we will be watching that closely and very familiar with Pima County and the rampant crime that exists there. Glad you're doing something about it. Daniel Gutierrez, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Oh, rampant crime in Pima County, according to this gentleman. So he's the one that's organising the... so it's a bipartisan petition. So he is a Republican. I mean, that's important to remember. He is, but he lives there as well. So the thing is, from what he was saying, if that's true, that crime has become rampant, and this case of Nancy is just the icing on the cake, the straw that broke the camel's back, are the community. They've had enough of it. They've had enough of the crime in Nanos. I mean, look. What we've seen of him, he can't get a grip on anything, can he? He's more interested in going to his basketball games. He's had an opportunity here with this case to show his leadership, and he's failed miserably. So, I can't say that I disagree, whether he's a Democrat, Republican, or whatever he is. He's not any good, is he? That's what matters, isn't it? So he's got the option, if they get the signatures, he'll have the option either to resign or to cling on and call another election. I think he will resign. He would resign if they got, because he hasn't. He only won by a whisker, didn't he? He only won the election this time by whisker, and it's said that he tried to manipulate the results because the other person that was standing against him was a woman, I think, and he remove her from service or something. Anyway, so there was dodgy dealings that went on in the elections, and he won by a whisker. So if they do get enough signatures, which hopefully they will, what will he do? Will he just resign, or will he call an election and take his chances again? Hi, Dustin. You're from Tennessee, right? Okay, hi. So, yeah. So let's have a look at the petition. So there's a change.org petition to remove Nanos that anyone can sign. So you don't have to be a resident. I've signed it. Julie signed it. I hope, well, it's up to you if you sign it or not. But what it'd be good to sign it, and just, I think it's important as well, just to show that people all over the world, not only in Pima County, have watched on this case and feel that it's wrong, what this sheriff, the way this sheriff has dealt with it. So it says, Pima County deserves a leader who is accountable, ethical, and transparent in their conduct. Let me just make sure it's not sharing. Let me share it. Recent actions and decisions by Sheriff Nanos raise significant concerns about his ability to fulfill these obligations effectively. Time for Pima County residents to demand a change in leadership to ensure our community is in competent and trustworthy hands. There have been numerous incidents that question his ability to serve the best interests of the community. Reports of increased criminal activity, mishandling of critical incidents, and allegations of unethical practices have surfaced, eroding public trust. And according to local news agencies, crime rates have risen by over 15% during his tenure, which is a stark contrast to the promises of reduced crime rates made during his campaign. Furthermore, he has been criticised for lacking transparency, implementing policies without public input, and failing to engage in open dialogue with community members. And these have all been recurring issues. Yeah, he hasn't. Why has he not done a press conference? Not since that first week. So all these individual interviews he does, but he contradicts himself every time he speaks. This has led to a disconnect between the sheriff's office and the residents who feel their voices are not being heard or valued. And in addition to operational failures, there have been concerns regarding fiscal mismanagement within the sheriff's department. An independent audit revealed inconsistencies in the department's budget allocations, prompting calls for a thorough investigation. The position of a county sheriff is one of immense responsibility and requires a person who can lead with integrity and transparency. Now, the thing is, if it wasn't for Nancy's case, this probably would never have come to light, certainly not on a national and international scale. Pima County's future safety and prosperity depend on having a law enforcement leader who embodies these values. It's imperative we take action now to address this leadership crisis. Sign this petition to support the recall of Sheriff Nanos and advocate for a sheriff who will genuinely commit to justice, transparency, and accountability in Pima County. Together, we can initiate the positive change our community needs. So that's the change.org petition. That'll be separate from the petition that the guy was talking about that will go to Pima County. So he was saying that they need, what was it, 12,000, let's have a look. How many? How many did they say they needed? Got to get so many signatures within a certain amount of time to recall him. And then if he does get it, so it's, New York Post Sheriff Chris Nanos, who is leading the hunt for Nancy Guthrie, is facing a massive recall effort from furious locals. So they're even talking about it in the Daily Mail. Once it hits the Daily Mail, you're in trouble. Blundering Nancy Guthrie sheriff now faces being fired by furious Arizona locals. Let's have a look at that. Well, he certainly seems to be a corrupt sheriff, doesn't he? Or that, as I say, to me, it just speaks volumes that nobody's come out in his defence. Because, yeah, you can't please all the people all the time, but, if somebody says something bad about you, normally somebody else will come and say, oh, no, that's not true. He's a really good sheriff. Has it? So the sheriff in charge of investigating the abduction of Nancy Guthrie faces being fired from his post. As an investigator from his office shares grave fears for her safety. Republican congressional candidate Daniel Gutierrez recently confirmed that he has initiated the recall process. So he's got 500 volunteers working to collect at least 120,000 signatures, which is the first step in a lengthy recall process to do so. He has been an embarrassment to Tucson and to Pima County with his Nancy Guthrie case. Yeah. So don't forget this, Nancy, the reward, including the reward from the family, is $2 million. And nobody has come forward. That suggests to me that nobody's ever going to come forward. For whatever reason, nobody, because if you don't come forward for $1.2 million reward, then you never, there is nobody. So, yeah. So this is, it says, this is the first time anyone has revealed, there he is, Mr. Nanos. I mean, really, if he what he should do, but I mean, he's 72 years old. Why doesn't he just resign? Why don't he just accept that this is too much for him? He's out of his depth completely. And of course, every day that passes is going to get more and more attention. And the attention on him does not, doesn't, every time anyone gives him more attention, more things come out that are wrong, like he lied on his resume, and he was, he had all these infractions from another post that he had, and he had to resign. Why didn't he just resign? He should just resign. What's he clinging on to it for? Is it that he doesn't want even more scrutiny? Because I suppose if he did resign and somebody else went in, would they then start looking at everything, and would there be even more things that come to light? It's a very strange man, really, this. He's dealing with it really badly. There's Nancy with Savannah, bless her. He's dealing with it so badly, but he won't resign. I don't know. Anyway, this is the guy who's calling for the recall, Daniel Gutierrez. Yeah, and he said, these are the things that he says he's done. So he was accused by several sources of locking down the probe amid escalating tensions between his team and federal agents. He's trying to control it completely. That's why he's not at a press conference, because if he has a press conference, you probably have to have the FBI there as well. He's just doing these interviews, just him. And he, talking a load of word salad, isn't he? Is that why he's not having a press conference? Because he doesn't want to include the FBI? So, in particular, he was allegedly keeping key decisions to himself and two of his highest ranking inner circle, effectively sidelining the small team of relatively inexperienced investigators at his disposal. So that's it. His detectives are inexperienced because he got rid of all the experienced ones. Anybody who disagrees with Sheriff Nanos over anything, they get transferred, or like that guy put on a desk job or whatever. So the detectives that he's got, his detectives from the sheriff's office, they're inexperienced because he got rid of all the experienced ones. So Buttier has told the New York Post that Pima County deputies wanted to begin the process to recall themselves, but they were worried about retaliation from the sheriff. This is the constant message that comes out about Nanos, that he's vindictive, that he will, if you complain about him, you'll get transferred or you'll get put on a different shift, which doesn't fit in with your family situation. And he added that police in Pima County had a unanimous vote of no confidence in Nanos on Friday. So apparently, according to this guy, believe it or not, a vote of no confidence was held, just within the police, and it was unanimous. So Gutierrez has taken up the recall initiative because he's a congressional candidate, and I don't think Nanos will mess with me. Gosh. So the Daily Mail can exclusively reveal 4 Pima County detectives are working directly out of the Tucson FBI building in a shake-up welcomed by other officers frustrated at Nanos's approach to the probe. He's a very strange little man, isn't he? You can see that he's full of ego when you hear him talk. And he does. I mean, a lot of politicians are full of ego, aren't they? I mean, there's no guarantee that the sheriff that comes in next will be that much better. But you just feel he can't really be worse than this one, my God. So he needs at least 120,000 signatures on a petition to remove him. Interesting. So this case had been at a standstill, said the source at the Sheriff's Department, and while Nanos still has overall control and the ultimate say over the investigation, now he's not as involved in the day-to-day things that are being scrutinised. I think that's a good thing. This is good, he said. There will be less meddling from command staff. Few people know the inner workings of what that joint team are currently running down, but it seems like they're operating well together. And they're still banking on a frustrating mixture of DNA results taken from Nancy's home for the identity of the armed and masked man captured on the porch video when she was snatched. So they said, this guy is emboldened. We've thrown everything at him and we haven't caught him yet. He's probably watching the news and thinking, man, they're not even close to me. I know you've got this picture of him. It seems so clear with the torch in his mouth there. And, why don't they know anything about him yet? Or maybe they do and we just don't know. So he's probably watching the news and thinking, man, they're not even close to me, at least from what he's seeing. So he's still out there, and that's a big worry for folks. He's a very careful suspect who did not appear to leave a huge footprint on the crime. And then the scene was mishandled when it was opened up so quickly. Yeah, this is where it all went wrong, I think, right from the beginning with Nanos. You know what I think? I think he thought it was Tommaso. I think he just did a knee-jerk reaction. He thought it was Tommaso. Tommaso was the last person to see Nancy. He thought it would be wrapped up within a couple of days. So he released the crime scene. He told everybody they had nothing to worry about. And then it turned out it wasn't Tommaso. And so then it's like, oh, shit, we've got to start the crime scene again and start from the beginning all over again. But the crime scene had already been compromised. So, yeah, the scene was mishandled when it was opened up so quickly. Who knows what forensic clues were lost? Yeah, I mean, let's face it. If you wouldn't want Sheriff Nanos in charge of, if it was your loved one that was missing, you wouldn't want Sheriff Nanos in charge of it, would you? Who is this man? This horrible, horrible, evil man going to hell? Whoever it is. So at one point, the tip line centre was receiving up to 4,000 calls a day, but that's now subsided to a trickle of around 24, and just 2 people manning the phones. That's despite the massive reward. Then meanwhile, the $6 million Bitcoin ransom demand letters, which put the Guthrie family through inexplicable extra turmoil with 2 cruel deadlines, are now largely been discounted. But haven't they found who did them yet, who actually made those calls? So they appeared to reveal inside information not known to the public, but the general view now is that these were fakes. People just trying to get some money out of the situation. Nancy gave a tour of her bedroom in a video, and there were other clues to her on social media. The scammers could simply have put all that together and made themselves seem like something they weren't. I still can't believe those emails haven't been traced, though. Savannah returned to New York City after several weeks up in Tucson. Yeah. Okay, I don't really want to talk about Savannah. Not because of anything, just, it's not fair, because Savannah's gone back to work and her family, she had to sooner or later. Yeah. Sheriff Nanos. So anyway, let me know what you think of him. Sign the petition if you want to. Anyway, so this guy, this Gutierrez, has said that he doesn't think he'll have a problem getting the signatures. He's aiming to acquire around 135,000 signatures because, as we saw, he says that crime is rife now there. Which leads me to this video that I want to show you. So yeah, one thing that we have seen throughout, that we have seen throughout this case, isn't it, of all these videos that are turning up of the people's CCTV, etc., outside their home, door cams and things. Every night. Anyway, I want to show you this one. See, sharing, okay. Now, we don't know that this is connected. I'm not saying it's connected. It's just another guy. Look at the rucksack, though. I mean, it's not the same rucksack, but why is it full? Has he been to other houses and stole things and put them in that rucksack? He's another one with a full rucksack. And he's lurking around this person's house, but he hasn't got a mask on. You can see him as clear as anything. Is a neg? I don't know what so he's black. So we don't think that the person who broke into Nancy's house was black. But was he working with them? If it's a gang, is this a gang? But he's wandering around this person's yard. Like, what's going on in this area? It's terrifying. I think if you had like door cam, and then in the morning you looked at your door cam and you saw some guy wandering around. Now, as I say, he hasn't actually got a mask on. Won't somebody know who he is? Sorry, it's whirring a bit, but it'll go. I'm just so glad I don't live in that area. I've never seen so many videos of. No, it just makes you wonder. I'm thinking if I went round all my neighbours who had cameras, security cameras, etc., and asked to see their footage, would they come out with a load of, no, this guy hasn't even got his hoodie up, so he's a real criminal mastermind, isn't he? No, he hasn't even got his hood up, does it? Can't you see the camera? Oh. Thing is, it feels like there's a lot of chances wandering around this neighbourhood as well, isn't it? You know, is he just wandering around to see if there's anything that he can just take? He hasn't even got his hood up, for God's sake. He's got no gloves on. So he's a bit thick, isn't he? Let's say. You can see the moon in the background there. You can see his face as clear as anything. So surely the sheriff's office would be wanting to talk to this guy, would they? Why is he wandering around this person's yard? They're just looking for an opportunity, something to take. And what's he got in his backpack? His backpack's full. Honestly, I just think, if I went round all my neighbours and asked for their door cam, would they come out with a load of, how many have we seen? How many videos have we seen like this? Oh, look, he's closing the gate, bless him. He's gone in, he's had a look. Obviously, nothing of interest in that house for him. Shown his face as clear as... So, what that guy was saying and what we know from JLR and people that have been out there are a lot of homeless people around. A lot of homeless encampments. And, you know, at the end of the day, homeless people are normally pretty desperate one way or another, aren't they? But he's just wandering in there as if, you know, with it showing his face. So he's not a criminal mastermind, as I say. You know, just walking, he hadn't even got his hoodie up, never mind a mask on. So I think the person that went into Nancy's is a whole different thing, because they were totally, you know, this is what makes me think they definitely have done something to Nancy. I just can't think any different, because they went, you know, they didn't want, like this guy's wandered in, he's not planning on doing any harm to anybody, or it doesn't feel like. He's looking for what he can just take away. That's how it feels. Because surely if he was going there for you know, to actually do harm to somebody, he would at least have his hood up, or he would have some gloves on or something. But when you look at the one going into Nancy's property or going up to Nancy's door, they just look like they're going to do something really bad, don't they? Because the way they're DNA conscious, forensic conscious, all those gloves, probably more than one pair of gloves, the ski mask, maybe even another mask underneath, you know, just, you know, when you look at the person from Nancy's case, they do look just even more scary. Hi, Mark. You know, they just look so scary. Definite targeted. They definitely targeted her, but why they targeted her? You know, and you could be right, Dustin. They might have taken Nancy to Mexico, but then you've got the why? You know, why? Why would they? You know, what's the reason for it? I can't see that. I don't think Nancy's in Mexico. I still think Nancy is local. I think the answers lie locally, which leads me to the last thing that I just wanted to talk about. So it turns out, so I wanted to talk about the family passing the polygraphs, which I have done. I wanted to talk about Nanos being recalled, which he has been, or he, you know, the process has started. And the last thing I just wanted to talk about is when I was watching Brian Entin, who's, you know, from News Nation, and he was at the scene, wasn't he? But he's returned to Florida now. But he interviewed one of Nancy's neighbours, and she said, and it has been confirmed. So Nancy's neighbourhood, most people own their homes there. You know, they're not. It's not a rental neighbourhood. But there was one place that was being rented, which apparently just after this happened, there were supposedly 3 men living there, and they moved abruptly, and this neighbour noticed, because 1 minute they were there and the next minute they were gone. So now people are, and now apparently the FBI are investigating those men. But then I just wanted to mention it because to me I thought, what, only just mention investigating now? I mean, the thing is, if somebody disappeared, one of my neighbours disappeared overnight, was taken from their house in the middle of the night, and then the next day the people in my neighbourhood is mainly people who own their houses. There's one renter over the road. They're always a problem, to be honest. Every time that house is rented out, the people that move in are always a problem. And there have been ones that have done a moonlight flip from there, and I think that they were involved in something, let's say, nefarious. I won't go into any details, but anyway, they've gone, and it's somebody else in there. They're a problem in a different way. But yeah, so let's suppose my neighbour disappears in the middle of the night. Nobody knows what's happened to them. And then the next day, the people who rent the place, the only rental place on my street, the only place that's rented as opposed to being owned, they do a midnight flit or disappear suddenly. Well, of course, it's going to look like it's to do with them, isn't it? I mean, that's not rocket science. You don't have to be Inspector Clouseau or you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to know that. Like, oh yeah, someone's disappeared there in the middle of the night, and then those neighbours have done a runner. So I just thought, what? When I read about the FBI supposedly investigating them, I can't believe they've only just started investigating them. Anyway, so the latest news about, the FBI inquiry. Sorry, I'm just putting some windows down while I just look up what it says. So apparently the FBI are asking about construction workers now. Which again to me just seems like obvious. Now there's construction going on in the area. Now that's certainly here in Spain with the building boom in just after 2000, when we came into sort of 2000, 2001, there was this massive building boom in Spain, and there were a lot of robberies. Wherever there's construction, sadly, when new developments are being built, the surrounding areas get robbed. And there's probably various reasons for that. The thing is, construction workers blend in, don't they? Like in a lot of neighbourhoods, if you see strange people wandering around, you think, well, what are they doing here? They don't live here, because you get to know the people who live in your area. And people can stand out like a sore thumb. But if you've got construction workers in the area, and there are a lot of strange people around, because of the workers, you don't notice things so much. And anyway, it's just a fact, and I know that because I am an interpreter as well. I translate from English to Spanish, and I've been to the police station more times than I care to remember with poor people that have been robbed, and they have to go and make a denuncia in the police station. And of course, you've got to be able to speak Spanish to do that. So if you don't speak Spanish, you have to take an interpreter with you. And for many years, I literally, there were some times when maybe 2-3 times a week, I was down the police station with different people who were either robbed in their home or were mugged on the street. That was another thing that used to happen. And mainly elderly people, because a lot of people retire out here, but not all of them were elderly. I've taken people who literally were asleep when they were robbed and didn't wake up because they would put a spray of gas into their house that would stop them from waking up. I've taken people to the police station who literally woke up to see somebody standing over their bed looking at them. Now, these robbers, they don't challenge. I've never taken anyone to the police station who's been attacked when they've disturbed a robber. Normally, if somebody does wake up, the robber, the burglar, they're gone. They're gone in the flat. You know, it's just like out the door and they're gone. What was other ones? I mean, just incredible. What, you know, how blatant they are. Literally, a couple that I took, and they were probably in their 50s, a couple that I took to the police station had literally woke up to see a guy standing over the bed looking at them. And the husband chased him off. You know, I said they don't normally want to engage burglars, these gangs that operate here in Spain. They don't want to engage. They don't want to get, they just want to get out of there as soon as possible. So, but yeah, I think probably if there is construction going on, because also construction workers often, not always, because you'll get the ones that work regularly for companies, but you get a lot of casual labour, don't you? People who just turn up, ask for some work. You know, I expect there's not many questions asked. You know, and who was a beneficiary of that? Of course, was the killer of Rachel Marin in Maryland. You know, I don't even remember his name now. I don't want to remember his name. Her name's more important. But Rachel Marin in Maryland on the trail, on the Mar and Par Trail, a safe trail normally that she'd been walking all her life, and she was in her 30s. And this guy, you know, was lurking one day, murdered her, and then stayed in the area for a while, but then he was off. He was a construction worker. He travelled all over America. He'd done another crime in Los Angeles, right over the other side of America. And he was finally caught in, was it Oklahoma, I think, or somewhere. So, you know, he travelled all around, and he didn't have transport. So he travelled on buses, Greyhound buses, I imagine. You know, and he was inventing different identities, and, you know, it caused so much debate, didn't it, about the open borders policy, because this guy, he was originally from Ecuador. I think it was not Ecuador, El Salvador, was it? Anyway, one of the South American countries. And he tried to get into America. He murdered a woman there. He tried to get into America 3 times, unsuccessfully. And then finally, the 4th time, he sneaked in, got in somehow, went to Los Angeles, you know, committed a crime there. Then he went off to Maryland, murdered Rachel Marin, and then off he went to Oklahoma. And he was sat in a bar having a beer when the police went and arrested him, when they finally caught him. And he was a construction worker. So construction workers, you know, yeah, they're casual labour a lot of the time. And I do think, you know, in America, it's quite easy to change your identity, isn't it? Or that's how it seems. And crossing state lines and things like that. And of course, where Nancy lived is right near the Mexican border. So you've got that to take into account as well. So, yeah, I think it's quite likely that it might be to do with construction workers. So apparently the FBI are asking about construction workers now. And now I'm just having a look at the what news there might be. Somebody's saying here, moon phase theory emerges in the case of Nancy. What? The moon phase? What they're talking about? The moon clue. Oh God, they're saying that former FBI agent. Oh, I'm sick of these former FBI agents. But this is, of course, Coffin Dodger, Jennifer Coffin Daffer. She stepped in with a fresh angle, posting on X about possible moon phases, explaining the footage quirks. Could this explain light? So what's this? So she said, she highlighted unconfirmed reports of FBI pulling neighbour videos from January the 11th and January the 24th, when the moon sat in waning or waxing crescent stages. What? This is how desperate people are for something to say. I mean, What's the point in conjecture about the moon phases? Could this explain lighting differences in the background in these two photos she wrote? Anyway, yeah, I think that's a bit of a load of rubbish, to be honest. But now the FBI do say that they've got this other footage, don't they? But then we don't know exactly when the footage is from, etc. Because we are in the absence of official information. And when you're in the absence of official information, people do start sort of talking about other things, don't they? Or even making things up completely, which is wrong. We're bound to speculate and we'll continue speculating. I just hope the FBI, I hope Sheriff Nanos resigns personally, get another sheriff in, a sheriff who will sort of connect better with the FBI. And I just find it difficult to believe there are no clues. Yesterday it was said, that the FBI have no suspect. How can they not have a suspect after nearly 50 days and a clear picture of this person? You must have some ideas. So don't forget, except from, was it the first week or the first 2 weeks where two people were detained and questioned? Nobody else has been detained. Nobody. And they haven't been necessarily cleared, Carlos and Luke, but they weren't arrested, they were detained, they were spoken to. Their houses were searched, their cars were searched, and that's it. So we've got this bit of DNA that apparently was found in the house. But there's issues with that, isn't there? Because then it was, Sheriff Nanos sent it off to his lab that he likes to use instead of to the FBI lab. And then now it's been announced that it's problematic, the DNA, it's mixed, and they don't know if they'll be able to enter it in genealogy database or so again it feels like, is that DNA going to prove useful at all, or is it just going to take time? Will there be a way that it'll be found useful? Another thing that Nancy Grace was talking about yesterday, which I think is logical, all the times that people have been seen that the FBI are asking, did you see anything strange on these particular dates? They're all weekends. They're all Saturday nights. So is this somebody who does work in the week? And then at weekends, their part-time job is burglarizing or going and kidnapping elderly ladies. I still, I don't feel that Nancy's, just the way I feel, I'm only saying how I feel. It's only my opinion. I don't feel that it was a burglary. I don't know, and I feel that if it was a burglary gone wrong, they would not have taken Nancy with them. I think they went there to take Nancy with them. For what reason, I don't know. But that is so rare. I'll say even in cases like BTK and the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez, they were murderers who went into people's houses to kill them and rob as well. But they didn't take the bodies with them. Take a body with you, what you're going to, or take a person with you. So complex, so complicated. And I don't think they took Nancy very far. That's the other thing I don't think. I don't believe in the Mexico theory, but, I understand why people do, and then they could be right and I could be wrong. I'm just giving my opinion. I know Mexico's not that far, but it's still quite a, to cross a border. You're taking a chance, aren't you? Taking a big chance. Why would they do that? And then what would they do with it? Would they have been a desert somewhere, dive in somebody's garage somewhere? Hi, Pamela. Yeah, there could be a big cover up. Is it, does Sheriff Nanos know something? Or you just, that's where we are now. We have no clue. So nothing, all the theories, nothing seems too far-fetched, because the whole thing is far-fetched. Just what's happened is far-fetched, isn't it? That an 84-year-old woman could disappear in the middle of the night. So it doesn't seem too far-fetched to imagine that Sheriff Nanos, his behaviour is very strange. I tell you what, I think there is definitely a cover. I'm not saying necessarily Sheriff Nanos knows about what happened to Nancy. But do you know what? What if Sheriff Nanos, now don't forget it's been under investigation once before by the FBI. Does he not want the FBI too close to his office because there's things in that office that are irregular? Maybe nothing to do with Nancy, but other things. And he doesn't want too much scrutiny. He's got all this scrutiny. I bet he's thinking, oh my God, because imagine if you were like in a public office and what you're doing is but you've got a few sketchy dealings going on. But it all goes under the radar, because who takes any notice of what's going on in Pima County? Normally nobody. It's, except the people who live there, really. Nobody else in America or all over the world had even heard of Pima County before. I mean, I might have heard of Tucson or Arizona, but and then suddenly this case, something happens that throws you right in the spotlight. And you've got all these dodgy dealings going on, I say probably even unrelated to Nancy, but other things going on. Suddenly you've got the FBI descending on you again. And you've already been through bad times with the FBI investigating you. That seems quite likely to me. It's like, reminds me a bit of, like, if you think about what's happening in the Epstein files. You've got somebody who's in public office, like Andrew, formerly known as Prince, or Peter Mandelson, who have always been a little bit sketchy, but nobody's looked at them too closely. Like Peter Mandelson, ever since I can remember, I don't know how he was ever made the foreign envoy again, because ever since I can remember, when he's been dodgy, they used to call him the Prince of Darkness. So he's always had dodgy associations, or this sort of dodgy aura about him. Same with Prince Andrew. Then suddenly, the Epstein files coming out, it throws they can't hide anymore. So, and although they've been arrested, but nothing's happened, and nothing probably ever will happen, I don't know, but suddenly they're under the scrutiny, under the microscope. That's what I think about Nanos. He's sort of been involved in dodgy things, probably unrelated to Nancy, like financial irregularities, like he was involved in before, allegedly, maybe. And then now this case has happened, and the next minute it's got the FBI on his doorstep as well. I think that might be why he's trying to keep them away at arm's length, because he doesn't want them to look too closely at what's happening in his department. He's used to being the king of all he surveys. He's like the little fat controller sat there in his office, getting rid of anyone who disagrees with them, making their life difficult, just controlling everything himself. The little fish in the big fish in a small pond, and then suddenly this case has caused all this attention on him. And he's trying to keep the FBI out because he doesn't want them to see too closely. I bet there's a lot of clearing up going on in that department at the moment. I think the reason Sheriff Nanos maybe hasn't got time for a press conference is he's too busy trying to tidy up all the dodgy dealings he's been doing. Is he trying to tie up loose ends so that just in case he has to resign or somebody else comes in? So I don't know. Yeah, it will buffer, Pamela. It's the computer. until I can get a new computer. There's nothing I can do about it, I'm afraid. I can't do anything. Sorry. So yeah, that's where we are. So we're nearly 50 days in. We don't know much more, but we could, if you want, you can sign the petition. I think I can put that again in the chat, but I've put it in the description of this video anyway. You can sign the petition to get Nanos out. And yeah, if you want him out, maybe some of you out there thinking he's doing a great job. I haven't heard anyone say he's doing a great job, to be honest. I think if somebody came into my chat or into the messages, comments, saying, well, I think Sheriff Nanos is doing a great job, I'd think, oh, that must be his wife, or that must be someone in his family, or that's him under a different name. Because, just nobody publicly has come out. That's unusual, isn't it? So he must have, surely there's some people in that police department who think he's great. I don't know. It doesn't seem that way, does it? Vote of no confidence against him among his police officers, apparently. And the process has begun to recall him, to cancel him, to if the signatures are achieved, if they get enough signatures, then he'll have the choice of either resigning or calling another election. What will he do? I think he will resign, but he'll do whatever takes the longest, because he'll want to stay there as long as possible to clear up all the sketchy things he's been doing. This has come as a surprise to him, hasn't it? So he's thinking, he got voted in by a the narrowest of margins. He's thinking he's got 4 years. Is it 4 years before the next election? He's thinking, oh, this is great. 4 years before I retire. He was probably thinking of finishing at the end of this, but he was probably, or maybe allegedly, trying to milk what he could out of these 4 years, and then boom, Nancy Guthrie gets kidnapped, and boom, he's right in the public spotlight. And he doesn't want to be in the spotlight, because he knows that the spotlight will show up his his failings and what is going on. Look at everything that's come out about the Pima County Sheriff's Department and about Nanos. Nobody would have known about this if Nancy wouldn't have been kidnapped. We wouldn't be talking about it. I'd never even heard of Pima County. So it's put him in a spotlight that he probably doesn't want to be in. But anyway. Okay, so thanks for watching. I will stick with it, of course. Let me know your thoughts as always, and I'll see you really soon in the next video. Have a great day. Please like, please subscribe. They're free ways you can help my channel, and don't forget to press that notification bell, because then you'll get the updates. And if I hear of any updates, I'll be on as soon as I can to tell you about them. Take care. Have a good day. It certainly is a mystery mark. I'll see you all really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye.